And we are live. Um, Hello, welcome, Matt. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. Good. How you doing?
Good to have you here. Hey, I see you've got a few folks joining us online here, and so I'm just going to start out by letting folks know a little bit about the warming house, and then Matt and I will chat for a little bit, and then I'm going to jump off the screen and let him play a bunch of songs for y'all. Uh, So, yes, welcome everyone to the very last show in the May Soiree series that the Warming House has been doing uh, throughout the month of May as a celebration of our fourth birthday or fourth anniversary as a venue. Um, for those of you who are not familiar with us, the Warming House is a uh, 45 capacity listening room in South Minneapolis. Um, we host 150 shows, ticketed shows each year in normal times. And in addition to ticketed shows, we do a bunch of community events, including open mics, songwriter workshops, jams, music business night, a bunch of stuff like that. So um, like pretty much everyone, we've been closed down as a venue, a brick and mortar venue since mid March due to COVID-19. Um, and so we've been hosting a bunch of online shows, and especially these shows, which have happened every day in May at 4 o'clock Central Time. That is. I usually at this point give everyone a recommendation for some of the other great May Soiree shows coming up. But at this point, you should just check our Facebook page and YouTube channel for the archive of all the great shows we did, and and check them out. Um, these shows are free or by donation, and generally speaking, uh, any tips, donations we receive, we split 80% goes to the artist, 20% to the warming house. Um, we are also in these times, as I'm sure everybody knows uh, who's tuning in, that it's been a tough week in Minneapolis and around the world with the police brutality that occurred here in town that resulted in the murder of George Floyd. Um, we are going to be posting some links to uh, organizations that you can donate to assist with efforts to fight racial inequality and police brutality and to uh, support the memory of George Floyd. And so uh, please feel free to donate to those as well, or instead, or whatever whatever you want to do. I mean, I know yeah. So uh, I think that's about all I'm going to say at this point on the preliminaries. And once again, the Suitcase Junket, welcome, and Matt. Yeah, just welcome. What's been going on for you?
Thanks. Well, been home a lot, and it's I love spending time in the yard, doing a lot of work on the house. Um, when everything got a little crazy in the middle of March, I was actually in the studio making a new record, and so the quarantine kind of slowed that process down, and so that's sort of been on the burner as well for the past few weeks, and we're just sort of getting that wrapped up now. Um, and we got chickens because I was freaking out about the egg shortage that happened at the beginning of this whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm building a chicken run out back because they got to get out of the house. They get a little dusty. Um, we adopted
Nice.
we adopted another dog. Family expansion mode.
So what's chicken husbandry like? Is that everything you expected it to be?
We'd gotten them one time before, and and it didn't work out. Sorry, I'm getting buzzed by a moth. We got 8 chicks, like you get the little day old ones, and they're really cute for about a week and a half. And then they start getting awkward and they molt and they start looking weird and they start beating each other up a little bit and the pecking order becomes real, and then all their dander and dust gets in the air. So they're out on the porch, but they still got to be inside for another week before they can hack it out in the yard.
Nice. So eggs, even though eggs were the goal, I'm guessing it's going to be quite a while till they'll be productive.
Yeah. I think basically they'll start to lay right before the winter, and then they pretty much stop for winter again.
Okay.
So it's really yeah. It wasn't a well thought out plan.
Well, I mean, we could be in the same boat still at that point. Frankly, you just never know.
I know, especially with our the kind of work that we do, which is try to get as many people packed into a room as we can.
Exactly.
But yeah, kind of counterintuitive these days.
Yeah. So speaking of that, have you been doing a lot of online shows and other things to try to make up for that, or what's?
A bit. I haven't done a ton of shows. I think I've maybe done 3 or 4. So, 1 or 2 a month. And then I wound up selling a bunch of artwork off of my website. I did this sort of grab bag thing where it's still up there, but you go on, there's a few different levels and you just sort of get whatever you get.
Nice.
And so I've been making a lot of there's this traditional Japanese wood burning technique that where you burn this wood and you brush it a little bit and then you oil it. And so I have all this old lath from working on the house, sort of old chestnut, some pine. And so I've been cutting that up into sort of wing shaped pieces and doing this sort of wood burning technique and, making little sort of flying winged sculptures and that sort of thing. So it was fun. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this. And it was great. It brought in some money, but then it was a real job after a few days. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, I'm very thankful, but.
So you got so many orders that you had to actually.
More than I expected. All of a sudden, it was an assembly line of 1.
That's funny. Yeah. Did you have a big tour lined up that you had to abandon, or?
Yeah. There was. In some ways, I lucked out. Up against some of my peers, who were putting albums out and having really big release tours. Yeah. I sort of had, I had a UK tour that I had to cancel and a few other small kind of regional, a few weeks here, a few weeks there. It wasn't going to be a really busy year. But it's weird. It's just real weird. And, yeah, it's grim, it's, right. There's a part of me that's, really grateful to be getting this time at home because I'm usually not here very much. And then the reason is just really kind of hard to stomach.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
So what about has this been a particularly creative period for you while you've been home the last couple of months, or?
Yeah, I thought it would be more so.
Yeah.
and I think part of that is, in some ways there has been a lot of creation, but it hasn't necessarily been writing, which I value maybe more than other things for some reason. But so it's been a lot of refining and the work for the album, a lot of work around the house to kind of catch up stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it's also just is a time that makes you feel really weird. So there's a lot of sort of psychological baggage involved that I didn't necessarily reckon for or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that seems to be a common theme where folks. I mean, some people it's like, oh man, I've been so productive and writing so many songs in this last 2 months. Others, are just completely paralyzed, and it's had the opposite effect, and there's a lot in between, and
Yeah, I've had a couple good days of, in terms of songwriting. A couple days
Yeah.
that were like, all right, here we go. I remember this.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You mentioned the record a couple times. So were you recording that uh, like at a studio in town, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's another one with Steve Berlin, who he produced the last album from Los
Okay.
Lobos. Really great musician. He's got great ears, and so we did. I think we did about 10 days in the studio in February, where he actually came out, and then the next set of studio days was in March, and that was when he lives on the West Coast, so things were already getting pretty crazy out there.
Yeah.
And so it was me and the engineer just sort of like, do we keep going? What do we do? But
Right.
we figured since we'd already been in the same room together for the past, week or so, we might as well, finish it out before we did the lockdown. So we were able to get all of our time in, but, we had Steve wired in from the West Coast, and it was a very difficult communication stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was trying for sure.
Yeah.
But
So
we
what
got
is?
it done.
But so it is done now? Did you say? Or?
Yeah, we finally finished it up. There was some stuff that we had to do from home. Once the studio days were done, it was sort of like, all right, well, we can't quite go back into the studio, but we can try and get a few more things done. And now it's off to the mixer, and so fingers
Okay.
crossed.
So, and then planning to hang on to that till you can get out and tour again, or release it before,
Yeah,
or what's it?
I have no idea what the
Yeah.
plan is,
Okay. Yeah.
but we've got it.
You've got it. It's like having a young chicken, right?
Yes.
Someday there will be eggs.
Yeah. Till then, you need to eat more? Okay.
Well, hey, it's been great chatting with you here. I think people are anxious to hear you play some songs, so I'm gonna hop off. But before I do, um, as you recall, probably from playing at the Warming House in the past, we do we ask all of our artists a question as a way to introduce them. And even though I've asked you a bunch, I'm still going to ask you another question because it's fun. And so here, in just a second, I'm going to ask you one of our standard questions. I do want to just mention again, I will be putting links up real shortly where you can tip or donate, either to support Matt and the Warming House. I'm also going to be putting up stuff where you can donate to support the efforts going on around the killing of George Floyd, which happened here in Minneapolis a few days ago, and has been heavy on all of our minds and hearts over the last few days. And we are thankful to have a chance here to listen to some great music and get some rest in that and a little diversion. And again, thanks so much for being here, Matt, and being part of this. So with that, here's the silly question to make a little transition. What is the first record that you ever bought with your very own money?
Yeah, that's I'm pretty sure that it was Weezer's Blue album. But I think it was also like I got some money from like my grandparents or something, and I went to the store and I bought a whole stack of CDs from that era. So I hate to say it, but I think Ace of Base was in there. There's a few questionable choices, but I think Green Day was probably in there. Probably Alanis Morissette.
Excellent.
Much already.
Excellent. No, that's I like that leading with Weezer, but it could have been any of those, right? So that's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, I know somebody mentioned they're hearing kind of a tapping noise. I'm hoping that's me. Something with my mic, but
yeah, I can hear it too a little bit.
Yeah. So hopefully that will go away as soon as I jump off the screen here.
Right.
But
let me know if it doesn't. I can try stuff on my end.
Okay, sounds good. Well, once again, Matt, really so happy to have you here. And I'm going to hop off the screen, and everyone, please enjoy the Suitcase Junket.
Thanks, John. I carry you across the ocean wide. I carry you across the desert dry. I'll carry you upstairs to the bed. I'll carry you into my dreams instead. I wonder what the world would make us. I wonder if we travel well by bus. I wonder where the time would let us be. But I realize I'm only wondering. I never leave your side. I never leave your side. Oh, I'll never leave your side. You let me be by yours. You let me be by yours. Oh, but my imagination seems so real. As though I know what everybody feels. But I'm not sure I even wanna know. And so I let my imagination go. Oh, but this illusion has its spell. Oh, those moments intend to kill. And oftentimes I wonder what it means. Maybe it all comes from what I've seen. I never leave your side. I will never leave your side. Oh, I'll never leave your side. You let me be by yours. You let me be by yours. happy 4 years to the Warming House. I'm going to play some songs from the first album I put out as the Suitcase Junket, which is 10 years ago now. So some oldies for you. In my house, I've got a chair. And in my chair, I've got a name. And in my name, part of me lives. Good day, hard, I don't know. I'm home with the people I love. The people I love, they say my name. They keep it inside. And that side, I don't know. I don't know if the me they know. Ever comes out. I don't know it me, they know it's me that I know, but I know I'm never gonna figure it out. Yes, I know I'm never gonna figure it out. When my heart, I got some names, but some names they don't know they're there, and I may never tell those names, but it don't mean that I don't care. Now when my name tries to make me be something other than who I am, I tell my name where you don't know me, and I'll never stay the same. 'Cause I don't know if me, I know it's me that I know. I don't know if me that I know ever comes out. I don't know if me, you know it's me that I know, but I know I'm never gonna figure it out. I know I'm never gonna figure it out. Oh, I know that I'm never gonna figure it out. under the babies and bury the dead. One cannot change the life that they've led. This we have written, this we have read. So water the seedlings and make up their beds. We must be sleeping and we must be fed. Fight off the danger, fight off the dread. Simple things can feel. Let them and they will. Simple things can feel. Hole in the heart. Hole in the heart. Hole in the heart. Hole in the heart. So climb up the mountain and run down the hill, wash in the fountain and clean up the spill. If you don't do it, nobody will. Hang up the laundry and sweep off the porch. Do all the things that you've done before. Try to remember that nothing is yours. And simple things can feel. Let them and they will. Simple things can feel. They hold in the heart. They hold in the heart. Hold in the heart. Hold in the heart. Yeah, that's kind of a heavy one, kind of a heavy time. Nice to be here with you all, though. A little bit of singing always feels pretty good. Let's get away from the old stuff now. Here's one that's going to be on the new album called Last Man on the Moon. I told myself that it was just the right thing to do. I was thinking about us, not me and you. Was reflexive falling out of control. I thought that maybe you would come out when we're old, but things are changing faster than we thought possible. I tried to reach you, but the bandwidth is full. Now I'm the last man on the moon. Forever never felt so soon. I'm the last man on the moon. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm staring at a blue speck that was my home. A little dot on a screen on a telephone. Thinking back about how it used to feel. It was a spring in the air at the baseball field. Can't help but wonder if I'm on your mind at all as we watch it all fall. I'm the last man on the moon. Forever never felt so soon. I'm the last man on the moon. What am I supposed to do? 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 I wonder if we're gonna live these days again, or is it gonna be the end and that ends all ends? Not that it matters for the next few moments. No, I'm still not ready to go. I'm the last man on the moon. Forever never felt so soon. I'm the last man on the moon. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm the last man on the moon. Forever never felt so soon. I'm the last man on the moon. What am I supposed to do? 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 Yeah. Well, I'll do one more song for you guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out and being here. And it's really weird, hard times, and I don't really know what to say about any of it. But thanks for taking a moment. And it always feels when I'm playing music like I kind of slip into a different kind of time space relationship, and it's very nice. And I hope that I can share a little bit of that with you. Yeah. Here's one more song. It's another one from the old Sever and Lift album, the 10-year-old anniversary one, called "Home Together." Because we are, albeit apart, we are all home together, separately. Okay, see you on the other side. My lips are made of razor blades and gasoline. You're the flame that burns me out and makes me clean. You are not a blossom or a make-believe. are home together. We are home together. We are home together. We are home. We are home together. We are home together. We are home together. We are home. I'm an open book that you don't want to read. Yeah, laying on the table. Come on and look at me. You got crying eyes just when you want to see. Maybe I should tell a lie for clarity. We are home together. We are home together. Oh, we are home together. We are home. We are home together. Yeah, we're home together. We're home together. We are home. Does anybody know away? How do we get love to stay? Well, we're never in one place long enough for us to stay. We are home. We are home. We are home. Oh, we are home. We are home together. We are home together. Oh, we are home together. We are home. Oh, 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 All right. Thank you all so much again. Please stay safe out there and I don't know, fight the good fight. Thank you so much. Love y'all.